right, well, we're gonna go for a little ride. It looks like we've got some interesting clouds around us today. Just cleaned the bike. Not this weekend, but last. Got it all shined up, so wasn't gonna take it out in the rain right away, but I don't know. Might have a little bit of dry here, so we're gonna see if we can dodge the puddles. We're trying on the insulated Carhartts today, first time, so seeing how those do. I don't know what the temperature is today. I'm guessing it's about 50. I'm guessing it's in the low 50s. It's not bad weather for riding, as long as it's not raining. I guess we probably all have our motorcycle theories. I've got mine in about, safe times to ride, and I would say that it's best to not be in the traffic zone for the commuters if you're a rider that just rides for pleasure and you don't ride to work, and then it's like stay out of the people when they're going home, because they're on a mission. You can see they'll take lots of risks. They'll do lots of stuff that they wouldn't do at other times of the day, and you'll see that. So I'm breaking my rule. I'm out at that time of the day because it's the only time to ride. Our days are short this time of year, and it's rare for us to have a weather window. So when it is nice, you got to get out and you kind of got to get it when the getting's good. That's what I'm doing. Lots of traffic, of course, but where I'm going to go, there should be less of that traffic where I'm going to go. And the bike's not 100% warm yet. We're going to take it easy right now. Ooh, baby, lots of traffic in our little town, but lots of traffic. That's why I try to avoid it. It's just not as much fun to ride when you're stopping and going and having to deal with all the cars. So that's what we got going on today. All right, let's get out of that zoo. Not as flexible. I got a lot of resistance with these pants, with the insulated heavy pants. We'll see what they do to my riding style. You have to get used to stuff. But riding bikes, if you haven't ridden street bikes much and you're out cruising, you'll find that things like your changing your boots or your shoes, or, whatever, all that stuff has an impact on how you ride. All right, so let you know a little bit about what I'm up to. My name's Roman. I have a 2005 Road King with the chrome and the geezer glide, as people say, or whatever. most of the guys that seem to own these seem to be about my age. Or older, and I'm in my early 51, and but it, you know, we don't feel as old as we actually are. And as a guy growing up, I always liked the looks of these heavier bikes with the bigger fenders, and I think the guys like my dad's generation didn't like those. They wanted bikes that were skinny tire and small fender, and these are kind of like a take on the wartime bikes, the wartime Harleys or whatever that are you know, were bulkier and had their heavy fenders. I look at those and I thought those were cool because I was young enough to think those were cool. And you know, the guys my dad's generation, they'd come back and they'd strip all that stuff off of them. They were trying to make them as lightweight and as performance oriented as they could, which, you know, I don't knock that. I mean, I have had bikes that were more performance oriented. It's not like I want a big heavy bike that doesn't have good performance, but from the looks of it, I like the look of the older American style motorcycle. And of course, these are blinged up. This has got more chrome on it than you can, you know. I mean, it's just chrome everywhere. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a good-looking motorcycle. And I've had motorbikes since I was a little kid. I've had some long stints where I didn't have a bike, but I've had several motorcycles through my life. And this is the first Harley, first V-twin I've had, that I've ever had. I guess what I said about traffic isn't totally true. They're all driving up here too, going home, I guess. But yeah, it's my first Harley. I got this a couple years ago. You know, and it's a modern Harley that looks like an old Harley. Of course, it's fuel injected. It's not a modern Harley, but it's modern enough. It's certainly not it's an electric start bike with a security alarm and fuel injection and all that stuff. So it looks old, but it isn't really that old. Now, for those who have issue with the twin cam, and this is a twin cam 88, I know the twin cams 103s are pretty popular. Guys like those a lot for a modern motor, and I know they're in an in-between land. They don't keep up with the modern Milwaukee 8 motors, and at least stock they don't, and yet they're not as simplistic and kind of friendly to work on, easy to work on as the earlier motors, and particularly kind of the Evo, where everybody kind of agrees it seems like Harley got it right. And I can agree with some of the people that say that based on my own little experience. Of course, I'm not one you want to take a bunch of advice from, because I'm pretty new at this, but I have spent some time working on this bike myself, and I've paid some people to work on it. And I can say that, you know, there's some truth to the fact that fuel injection is kind of a pain, even though this is considered a reliable fuel injection system. You know, and we replaced quite a few little sensors and things to try to get it to work. It was having a hiccup. This is not a fun ride today, by the way. There's a lot of traffic today. It is. So the fuel injection stuff can be. I mean, I'll just tell you, it was having a sputter and a cough, and it was starting up fine. It started up perfect every time, but it just had some hiccups in the, excuse me, it had some hiccups right in sweet spots of the power band. 3,000 RPM, you know, it would do a little hesitating and coughing. And, you know, that kind of takes the fun out of it after a while. And anyway, eventually we fixed it. It doesn't do that anymore. It runs great now. But in order to get it to that point, it took a lot of trial and error. I went through I got a shop manual, went through everything I could figure out, all the things that seemed to, you know, the higher possibilities, and then started going through the smaller stuff, and had a good friend who's rebuilt several of these motors and is a electrical engineer and has worked on these fuel injection systems professionally. And eventually he even told me, I think you're going to have to go to the dealership or somebody with a dyno and get it worked on. So I did that. That didn't work out the first time it was there, but I brought it back, and after I spent a decent amount of money, they got it on the dyno, and they got it. I mean, I wasn't asking them to put it on the dyno originally. But eventually they got to that point and said, I think that's what we got to do. I was actually not a big fan of that idea, but you know, they did it, and it worked, and it ran great. But you know, I definitely see the notion of carburetors, and you know, I know carbs get gunked up. I know they need to be torn apart. You got to buy gasket kits, and you got to hassle with them, and they don't like ethanol fuel, all that stuff. I understand them. I have those kinds of systems in other vehicles of mine, so I get it. And I've had them in plenty of bikes. Actually, I've had them in all my bikes. I've never had fuel injection until this bike. So I'm familiar with it. But I do see the benefit of having a carburetor and basically not having to tune with a computer. I mean, if you're the kind of person that likes doing that and you have what you need to do that, then yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean, that's fine if you're that type. But if you're, you know, more of a renter kind of guy, yeah, I do see the wisdom in the carburetors. I can see the wisdom in the Evo. Yeah, this bike on the dyno, actually, I don't think that, I'm not sure how accurate the numbers are in that dyno test, but it came up higher than what I would have expected. So I bought this bike used, and it was a one-owner bike prior to me. And the woman that owned it had money and spent it on the motorcycle, and she rode it all over the country a few times, actually. And when she needed to buy things for it, she spent money on it. She didn't mess around. And at some point, I know the bike overheated a little bit. She had an overheating thing one time on a trip out on the road. Had to have it trailered. It was the first time she's ever had that. She said the only time she ever had that happen. And she took it to somebody, and they did some work on it, and then they put a pro pipe on it. They did several things to it, and I think they might have done a cam, and I think they might have done some other work, because this bike seems to have pretty good power. So, and I think they might have done some top end stuff. So eventually we'll get in there and figure that out, root around in there, and get a better grasp of that, how it looks. So, but anyway, I am a heavier guy, and I'm a fat guy, and my girlfriend is not, but you know, she's probably 150 pounds, and then I am probably about 3. So we ride this, and it hauls us around. I think we're a little hard on the clutch, and I think it does slip a little bit if I'm really really hammered on it with both of us, which I don't do very often, but if I hit the acceleration really hard, I will notice that sometimes it'll want to slip a bit. But other than that, it does really well. I put a rear shocks off of a 2024 Glide, I think it was. They were takeoffs, so it has the adjustable ring on the driver's side shock. It has an adjustable ring that is that you turn with a wrench. You kind of preset that for your general load, and then you have the adjustable knob on the other side for day-to-day variations. And man, those have made a big difference in the way this bike rides over the original air suspension. They're fluid filled, but they have, you pump air into them. For one, that system leaks. It did with me. I mean, it would leak over time a little bit, and so you'd end up having to, you're always kind of guessing if you hadn't pumped it up. It's kind of a pain to pump it up unless you put the hose in a different position. It's kind of difficult to get to unless you relocate the fitting. And I hadn't done that, so I had the pump and everything that it takes, that it needs, the Harley pump, and I would pump it up. But half the time you get on the bike and you just didn't want to mess with, you just go, and then you'd go and you'd bottom out on something when you were 2 up, and you're like, oh, shocks are probably flat, and they were. Every time I checked that, they were, but it was just kind of a hassle. The new shocks, they're not air. You adjust them, and they do what they're supposed to do. And they're a better ride all the way around. So that was a good upgrade. And in case you guys are wondering, this is an 05, like I said, Road King Classic. And I put the shocks on it from a 2024, I think they said CVO, which I don't know if that made any difference. I think the shocks in 24 they started putting on them. And I know everybody takes those off and upgrades to something better, but they're a big upgrade for these older bikes. So, and they were relatively cheap. I got them on eBay. They were like brand new. I mean, they weren't nothing, but they were half the price of like even buying Progressives. And really happy with them. They make it feel like a much newer bike, basically. So I suggest you do that. I didn't have to make any modifications. I didn't have to. I saw one guy on one bike. He had to like put a, I don't know. He had to do something to his. One of the knobs would barely fit or whatever underneath. I don't know. On this bike, it's not. I don't think it's a low rider. It's not. This bike's a standard bike, and they were standard length shocks. And yeah, they did. They did great. I didn't have to do anything. I just bolted them on. I mean, it was a super easy job. So anyway, all that stuff. I'm talking about this bike. So it's a twin cam 88, 2005, 5-speed. It's well dressed. It's nice looking bike, real clean. It's got a lot of miles. It's got 70,000 miles. And like I said, I'm not aware of the engine work and exactly what was done, even though the woman took good care of it and rode it a lot, and it was her baby. When it came to talking about work that was done on it, she just didn't seem to have much understanding of what the people did that worked on it, and she didn't offer the paperwork, which gave me an uncomfortable feeling. But man, the bike, where she lived, what the bike represents, all her gear that she had with it that she tried to sell, I bought some of it from her. It was all just it was not BS. But the bike's got a lot of miles on it. It also runs, now that it's tuned and stuff, it runs really well. I have not been on one of the modern bikes, so I know that there's a big difference in power probably. But I really like my motorcycle. So here's something about the Road King. I know there's a lot of guys. I'm one of the few guys that has like alloy rims on my F250. and they're not black. I know everybody has black everything. I know, I do, you know, I get that's a thing. I get that I'm maybe older, so where I'm out of style on that. But to me, I will tell you the amount of compliments I get on this motorcycle when I park it at a grocery store or whatever, from the entire range, little kids, old, you know, elderly women, men, whatever it is, it's like, and the compliments are, that is a beautiful motorcycle. I mean, you know, it's just like that kind of, holy crap, that's an incredible motorcycle. It's just a road king to everybody who's a Harley. It's, to some guys, it's like, you know, it's almost like a PT Cruiser. It's like, it looks like an old bike. It doesn't need to. It's got a bunch of crap. I know it's got its haters, or I don't know if haters, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. But I will say to the average kind of like non-motorcycle audience out there, they think this is an amazing bike. And I can tell you, having some other neat rigs in my life, this is probably the most complimented vehicle I've ever owned. And it's pretty, you know, not that that's a thing. I guess that matters. I don't so much care about that compliment too much or whatever. That's not that big a deal, except for it's kind of cool that it brings a smile to a lot of people's face, and it really does. And it's kind of a fun thing to be out on. I see people all the time watching me and my girlfriend April when we're out riding around. I see them, you know, couples that I could tell probably aren't motorcycle people, but they'll wave at you. It's just a motorbike that people. It's not an evil looking bike. It's just it's like an old hunting rifle, you know. It's not a black rifle. It's like an old hunting rifle. And people just tend to really like it, and it's kind of a cool thing. What else I was going to say? I mean, those are just aesthetic things. I would say the main thing, or I mean, you can't take the looks away from. I mean, you know, take that out of the equation. Obviously, part of the reason that you own a Harley is because of you happen to like what it looks like, and even if you know some people don't, I like a lot of motorcycles. Harley's not the only thing I like. As a matter of fact, it wasn't the first kind of things I liked, and my first love, and I'm always going to stop and stare and talk to a guy that's got Honda CBs, you know, whatever, 350, 450, 550, 750, whatever, the older CBs, the standard Honda motorcycle that looked like kind of like a British bike, a BSA or something of its day, and that Japanese motorcycle thing of that era, I'm always gonna have a soft spot for those. I just think they're beautiful. I've owned a couple, and I've owned some old Goldwings, the first Goldwings, this 75, 76, 77 Goldwings that are that if you think you know what a Goldwing is, looks like, I understand if you don't know what these are. The original Goldwings were not made with saddlebags and fairings. They were just bigger motorcycles, and they were supposed to be like the big deal, you know, kind of the epitome of the sport touring motorcycle. And Honda didn't. I think when Honda developed them, they didn't necessarily know that they were just going to become eventually a highway cruiser. But the motor they put in, it kind of lent it to that. It was a boxer motor in those, and anyway, I've had two of those, that same vintage 76. I think I had one 70. I think both of them I had were 76s actually. So, yeah. Anyway, I have a soft spot for Honda. As a matter of fact, I've owned mostly Hondas most of my life of different kinds. So, I'm not necessarily first a Harley guy, but it's a little damp. We're riding up to Silver Creek Falls out of Silverton. I live in Silverton, and we just took the ride while I was talking about motorcycles. We just took the ride up to Silver Creek Falls. This is a state park up here, and one of the more, well, yeah, it's a famous place in Oregon to come see if you're from out of town, and if you want to get out of town. It's beautiful up here. We have some older forests up here, and they've all been logged, I think, but they're yeah, it's in my backyard basically. It's a 10-15 mile run up around to the falls, which is a pretty nice place to be able to head. I wasn't going to come up here today because I know the roads are moist, and nah, whatever. The bike is so clean, I wasn't going to bring it up here today, but there's too much traffic down where all the people live, so we came up here. But going back to the Harley, like I say, come from a lot of different kinds of bikes, so I'm not like a Harley guy. Wasn't a Harley guy. I think I'm kind of becoming one now. I am one that has come to believe that the visceral experiences in certain things, and motorcycle riding is one of those, that, like some people say, it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. And I wouldn't say this is a slow bike, but I would say that the visceral experience of motorcycle riding, like a lot of other things, if you clean it up too much, if you make it too easy, if you try to just address comfort the entire time, you'll end up losing some of the experience. And I think Harley has done some of that with, I think a lot of manufacturers have done that with their motorcycles, or tried to, and make them smooth. Honda's done that for years with their touring bikes, of course, and I think Harley's done it a little bit lately. And I am familiar with the Honda Smooth, but I'm not familiar with the Harley's newest stuff. But I will say this: owning my first twin cam, or my first big twin, V-twin motorcycle, has been all that I'd hoped it would be. And I know there's better ways of achieving that for a lot of guys, with a shovel head, or even better, a knucklehead, or something that's more authentic than this, I guess, to them. But whatever, this is a big twin, no doubt. And my experience with a big twin has been, hell yeah, love it. I mean, I love the torque of the motor, the pretty good size, two pretty good sized pots that have pretty good pull and weight to them, and so I enjoy that torque, and I think everybody does. It's just a good feeling in any kind of vehicle. If you've owned enough rigs over your life, you know that torque is a pretty important thing. And so the torque is a big deal on these, and so is the V-twin sound, and a little bit of the shakes, and just the overall. You definitely feel like you're sitting on top of a big motor. Of a motor that's, even though it's not huge in car terms, it's a pretty good sized engine that you're riding around on, and that's not, you're not disconnected from that entirely. I mean, you can feel it, and your bars shake a little bit when you're at the stop signs, and anyway, I like that a lot. It adds to the pleasure of riding a motorcycle. It's just an enjoyable hot rod sound, and this has got a pro pipe on it, and it's pretty for a touring bike, it's a pretty obnoxious, I don't know, it's pretty loud touring bike. And if I was going to ride across the country all over the place, I might want to change my pipe a little bit to something a little milder, if you're, or if you wear your plugs and stuff. But it's a pretty aggressive sound on this, but it's a great sound. It's a 2-in-1 pipe, and it has its own sound that some people really love, some don't, but it's whatever. I think it sounds great. Yeah, It's a great road up here. This is a great ride. People ride up here. I'm going real slow while I'm talking and video, and I got a car in front of me anyway, but I'm just taking it easy. But what was I saying? Oh, so anyway, I love for those of you who haven't done the Harley thing, I would say, yeah, I mean, there's, of course, a lot of motorcycles that are faster and do all kinds of things better. This is my favorite motorcycle. The most enjoyable motorcycle I've ever owned is this. So I know that Harley has new bikes that will put this to shame in terms of power and ride quality. I don't know, put it to shame, but they're certainly better, and that they are, beautiful, smooth, technologically more advanced. They have, a screen. They have fairings that will give me more wind resistance. Really make it a more comfortable ride. So, I know this isn't the ultimate Harley, but here's why I think it is for me. I own it. I didn't have to mortgage anything to buy it. I didn't have to get a loan. I didn't get financed by Harley. I bought this bike secondhand. I spent a little bit of money having some repairs made, but they weren't. It wasn't major. It wasn't a major expense. Parts for it are available. Very available. But anyway, there's not the major financial burden. I mean, this bike, I think I got this bike for $5,000, and yeah, so it's a high mileage Harley, so it's not considered a bargain at $5,000. But the condition was amazing. So, and the amount of extras that were on it that were really it was my taste, and that stuff that was done. So it was cool. I mean, I got a lot of extra bike too. So all in all, whatever. I paid, about market value for it. I don't think, but for me it was good because I was trying to keep the budget under $6,000, and so I was looking at a certain kind of bike, and anyway, it fit. I wondered if I would regret getting a high mileage bike, and I may, time will tell, but so far I don't. So, but the reason that this thing, I'll get to it finally. The reason that I really like this bike, I mean, I like the V twin. I like the power. I like the way it looks. I have a girlfriend who likes to ride on the back, and we're not kids anymore, and we both like to ride and cruise and tour, and this bike does that really, really well. It handles a lot of capacitor load, and it handles it really, really well. That's all really nice. That works for my lifestyle. It's not everybody's, but it works for mine. It's a comfortable bike to go for day trips on, and it's got enough power and torque to do it, and it's a nice time doing it. So all of that's true. The Road King in particular, or the classic Road King, Harley doesn't make this bike anymore. And the new Road, and I don't think I think this year they discontinued the Road King altogether. Whatever. They've changed the names, they've done different things, so whatever. I'm not one that's going to freak out. I'm not one of those guys with Harley, but anyway, they're not making them anymore. They made a police model that was very similar, but for most people, it was the only bike that was available to them the last couple of years. It was a Road King, was the special, and the special look. I mean, I love them. I like the looks of them. They are more blacked out. They have like the black chrome or whatever they call it. It's black, but it's still shiny. And that was kind of their thing. They didn't really have chrome bikes anymore, but they look really good. And they don't have all the light array up front. They changed that to where it's a lot more, I don't know, it's custom looking. It looks cool. And they're very popular. And then they have a Milwaukee 8, so they've got the modern power plant. as a popular bike. I mean, maybe not that popular because they're discontinuing them, but I think a lot of Road King guys were looking at them going, they're cool. But here's the problem with them, and here's the reason why I like these old Road Kings, is they're convertible easily. So they have the quick disconnect system on the front and the back, the tour, all the tour accessories, the tour bags, and the stuff. They pop on and off really easily, very quickly, very secure, just like a great system. And the windshield on this bike is just a massive convertibility. And I know for those of you who aren't motorcycle riders, that'll probably sound crazy. You're like, well, what do you mean you're not riding in the wind without anything around you? What's that little piece of plastic in front of you? What's the big difference? Well, if you ride, you know, the windshield on, you know, a classic Harley is a pretty big piece of plexi. It looks, or Lexan or whatever it is on these, it looks smaller in this camera because I'm on a wide angle and it shrinks it down, but it's really a pretty big piece of glass or whatever. And anyway, beauty of it is, with it on, you've got damn near a full dresser touring bike, and it's not a fairing, but it keeps about 70% of that wind and that stuff off of your chest, so you can set up right. I basically have almost no chest pressure right now as far as like wind hitting me, and I'm just doing 55, but whatever, I'm cruising. But this windshield allows me to do 75 down the highway all day long and not get fatigued from the wind pressure. And that's a big deal if you ride, okay? Now, I leave this windshield off almost all summer because mostly what I do in the summertime is I come up and I do these rides up here, and I enjoy the scenery around where I live because I'm fortunate enough to live in a pretty beautiful area. I'm getting lucky. I'm probably not going to be lucky the whole time, but so far we've come up here and not got rained on. We're kind of up at the top of the hill right now. You probably can't see it, but maybe if I zoom in when I get home on the computer, I might be able to. There's a helicopter there, and he's got Christmas trees. So it's mid-November right now, and we live in the Doug Fir capital of the world, as they say, where if you look out there, those are Christmas trees, and that was a helicopter grabbing trees. It's kind of funny to think that that's efficient enough, but you Californians are spending enough money on Christmas trees that these guys can haul them around with helicopters. Anyway, this bike goes from a pretty cool looking, pretty svelte looking motorcycle. When I say, I mean, it's still a big fender bike and a big front end bike, but when you take the glass off the front, you take this off, and you take the tour pack off the back, which I have on it, I'll show you. I'll put a picture in this. I'll pin a picture in this when later on, so you'll see it. But this bike is loaded up for touring right now, and it can be stripped down and lean, mean machine. It just looks like a big muscle car without that stuff in 5 minutes. And it's easy to do at home. I do it all the time. Like I say, in the summertime, riding this bike without a windshield is a much more visceral ride. It's just like riding those old CBs that I'm talking about, or a lot of those other bikes. In that, not necessarily in the way, the characteristics of the way it handles, but in the way that it rides, so it feels. You know, even though you're sitting back on this and you got floorboards. You're in the wind, man, and you're really, and it's not, you know, in the summertime when it's hot, it's like you're fighting the heat, you know. Again, those people that ride, this isn't news, but if you don't ride and you don't understand, if you're in, I always tell people it's like being in the middle of a hairdryer. You know, if you're in the summertime, it's not as if riding in the wind really cools you off much. Once you're over 85, 90 degrees, it's kind of just hot. And it's just hot air getting blown at you. So you know, that's kind of a thing. Anything you can do to you don't want to have a windshield on. I don't want to have a windshield on most of that time. I know a lot of Road King guys and like Heritage guys and stuff. They never take their glass off. They can just kind of consider it permanent, and they really prefer that. It does keep the bugs off, and it does have some benefits. But I personally take that thing off when the weather's nice. But another thing is to try to do mileage. If you're doing a long trip or whatever, it like I say, it's a big huge shield. It creates a wind bubble around me, and so it basically keeps it makes riding a lot less of a workout. If you haven't ridden much, it really changes the amount of, you know, strength it takes to hold on, I guess. You know, the wind's trying to push. If you imagine yourself sitting on a seat and hurtling yourself through the air with nothing blocking the wind, and you're going 60 miles an hour, well, that's a lot of wind against your body trying to pull. You're kind of a sail, you know, and that's a whole different riding experience than having a bubble formed around you. Now, the bigger fully dressed bikes, the Harley makes that have the glides, the road glide and street glide and stuff, those bikes that are very common today, they're more refined machines. They're smoother, they're faster, they have better suspension. They're kind of better in every like statistical way, but they are not better in their convertibility. You can't get those bikes, you know, stripped down like you can this. It's just not a thing that people do. You're always going to have that fairing out in front of you. No one wants these kinds of bike, and everybody buys those in Oregon where I live, and I think they're just by far the most popular bike. And well, like I say, Harley's discontinued these, so maybe I'm holding on to an old relic, and everybody else in the world thinks these are stupid, but me, or guys that are over 50. But I will tell you, this is a fantastic motorcycle. If you're a bigger person, if you're heavier or bigger, or if you're taller, these full-framed big twin Harleys are great. They are stable as hell. I mean, they're just like rock solid on the road. As you would imagine, they're heavy. They are not as easy to flip around in a parking lot as you know, some super light bikes or whatever. They take more thought in what you're doing. It's kind of like the difference between having a little car or having a full-size pickup. You know, that is a thing, and they're heavier, so at slow speed maneuvering, you need to learn how to handle that. I will say that I am no what do they call those rodeo guys? They call them whatever, I can't think, but you know, the people that do the police drills and all that stuff and the tight cone stuff, I would fail at those miserably, I'm sure. I do know some of the concepts, and I use some of those in everyday riding, but I have not mastered any of those skills. But I will say that the general principles of tension and a little bit of power, using your rear brake and keeping your head up and looking where you need to go, and all those general things do allow you to maneuver one of these bikes just fine if you have reasonable leg strength and if you're a reasonable size. And I know that little tiny people show that how they can get them around and ride them all the time, and I know they can. I do think if you're really light and really small, you don't really need to buy a bike this big, and you'd probably enjoy riding a Softail or something that was a really nice bike that basically to you would feel the same as this does to me. So I ride this because it fits my size and what I want to do with it. But if I was 5'2" and 135, 140 pounds, I don't think that it would be my first choice for a motorcycle. But anyway, this is being a classic, has the leather, I say leather bags, but you know, they soft bags-ish. They are plastic on the inside. They're hard, but they're not like real hard bags, shiny, you know, painted hard bags that are a little bit larger, and these aren't very much smaller, but maybe a little smaller, and these don't have a latching system that you can lock. These are just used like a, there's a clip on them, and they're leather strap, so these aren't secured in that same way. And I have the matching. I picked it up used. It didn't come with it, but I found somebody that had one and cleaned it up and did a little touch up on it. Tour pack, and it matches. It's the matching tour pack. You've seen the old classics, you know what it looks like probably. But a bagger, as they say, the baggers were really popular. I think they're not. I think they're still pretty popular. This is a bagger. This isn't what people would say when they say bagger now that they're really meaning. They're meaning something a little bit different. But this is a bagger, and this is a. This is great. I mean, when I have a tour pack on the back of this thing, and the bags never really come off. They come off. I don't take them off except for to clean and do stuff, but generally the bags are always on the bike. And, I go to the grocery store. I mean, you'd be amazed. The gallon of milk and the this and that in the side bag, and if I have the tour pack on, it's like I can do all kinds of shit. So, yeah, if you're a guy like me, if you're a rider, and there are a lot of motorcycles that do what this does. There are a lot of motorcycles that do a lot of other things that this doesn't. This is not an off-road bike. This is not you can ride it on gravel roads, of course, but, it's not super fun to ride it on gravel. I mean, it's a road bike, and it's not just for eating up highway miles. This is what we've done for the last hour, essentially, is not on the highway. I mean, highway, whatever, not on the freeway. We are riding around on paved roads in what a lot of guys would have a lot of fun on their Dyna or their sport bikes, and a lot of guys do. Cafe bike racers and running around. I mean, there's all kinds. I'm having fun I'm on roads, on decently paved roads all over on back roads. That's the majority of what I do. I really don't get on the freeway. I will get on the freeway to go on a longer ride. I'm not against it. If I'm choosing, I'm not going to be a freeway rider after work. I mean, I want to go right. I live in this beautiful area. I want to go. That's where I want to spend my time. So, yeah. So, for my use case and my age and I was born in the 70s. This motorcycle is damn near perfect. There's lots of bikes that I look at and that I think are great and have other purposes in them that would be better at things than this one at certain things. But if I'm in my position, if $5,000 for a motorcycle is about where I sit and it's about all I'm willing to spend on a motorcycle, I can't think of a better bike than this. As a matter of fact, I think this is a lot better than a $5,000. This beats the shit out of a lot of $5,000 bikes. This is a 20-some-thousand motorcycle, and up until fairly recently, they were making a bike that looked exactly like this, essentially exactly like this for $20-some-thousand. So, it's a lot of bike for $5,000, and you can find them for $5 to $6 all day long, all over. You can find them under $5 where I live, and I know there's probably a lot. You probably say, hey, I live in North Carolina. I find them way less than that all the time. Maybe you do. I will say here, that's not the case. You can find the Evo electric glides and stuff for $4,500 and stuff, and I wouldn't steer away from those. I think that's actually probably a really good deal and probably a really good way to go. The twin cam has some issues that it's known for that are negative. It doesn't have the best reputation from Harley. It's first of all, it's kind of I think there were twin cams that had carbs. I know there are. I know there are twin cams with carbs, but there are. It's kind of known as and there was also, I think, the early injection system with Harley that wasn't known to be it was difficult to work on later on, real difficult, not like this. This is, I think, the Delphi or whatever system that's pretty common and good, easy to work on. And then I think, there was an earlier system that had like an Italian name or something, I think. And I know those are guys say they're good systems, but they're hard to get parts for. They're kind of obsolete now, and guys they can be kind of a headache now to work on. So, but the twin cam has a reputation of the bike that's injected, so it's modern, but yet it's not the newest modern that's really powerful, or that got even more power. This was a big power upgrade in its time. Yeah, anyway, sorry I got lost a little bit. I was watching traffic. It's funny, I watched the guy's blog. This is the first attempt at a blog or a motovlog that I've done. I've taken some video with April and I riding and some just scenic stuff, and we talk a little bit, but this is my first try at actually talking while riding the whole time. Anyway, the twin cam, I'll get back to that, is the twin cam has some, it has its detractors, and for real known reasons. I said it's kind of known as the injection bike or whatever, that it's kind of the bike that really kind of brought in fuel injection for Harley, and that's true, and people don't like it for that. But the other thing is, I would say the bigger problem is that it has a cam chain system and a run-out issue with the crank. A different method of assembly with the crank, and that they call it a pressed crank, a machine done, not a hand built crank. And eventually they got rid of the bearings that were really good. They kind of cheapened the cranks, which if you're a car guy or a motorhead, that's not your favorite place to go cheap. It's kind of the lower end, the core of your engine, and so if that's got a weakness, then kind of the whole platform is like compromised in a way. And so that's a thing. I actually know a guy who rebuilt a bike that had spun the crank essentially, or had got it way out. Anyway, they just don't run as true. The crank isn't as true as the previous cranks, and the run out on them is substantially higher and would be out of tolerance on a what was an older bike. So yeah, they're not loved for that, and I don't love that, honestly. Guys do when they rebuild them, the older ones now, like bikes like this that have higher mileage, guys will take them and they'll put a different kind of, they build the crank, or they, I don't really know what they do. They put a hand forged crank or whatever. They'll kind of replace that stuff, because you get to a point on these where you need to rebuild them, and sometimes it just makes sense to rebuild the top and the bottom, and guys do that, and they're still in for, as they say, way less than the cost of a new bike, and these machines are not throwaway machines. If you've ever been around them and stuff, look, the brackets and accessories and the things that are on these bikes are better made than most of the stuff on my Ford pickup. They really are made they're a higher quality American-made thing. They're pretty cool in that, and they really aren't, building a motor, if you really like them, and then upgrading the suspension, or servicing things and getting stuff tuned back up, is definitely a thing that people do all the time, and I think I will do that to this. So, but for me, the twin cam has got pretty good power when you put a cam in them and you do things on them. They're pretty powerful motors. So I am not a twin cam hater, not so far. And the cam chain tensioner thing has been replaced in this bike, and so I don't have that issue. I basically would say that I am not at all unhappy with my motorcycle. So, if you're thinking about one of these, the only thing I would say to you is fuel injection is sensitive to tuning mods. So if you mod things in the helmet, that's funny. If you mod things in the bike, if you mod your air cleaner and you mod your pipe and you do stuff to it, you're going to have to tune the bike. And I think the common thing on these is for people to get, if they really love their old twin cam, is they do the cam chain swap thing, they upgrade that, or at least they replace the tensioners. And a lot of times they'll put, I think the Thunder Max system, which is a tuner that goes on it, and it actually, I think, kind of replaces your ECM. And they do that, and then guys kind of dial them in, and then they're supposed to kind of retune quite a bit, so they end up kind of, then you have a system of your own that you can replace parts and tune your bike and do different things with it, add parts, performance parts, and then you don't have to go back to the dealership every time you do that in order to have them tune the bike for you. You can do it yourself, and I think that'd be a good way to go. But yeah, I would say if you're in the market for a touring bike that's that's a Harley, and you're into them and you like the looks of them, of course that's a big part of it. So if you don't like the look of it, fine. But if you do, Road King's pretty good bike and pretty comfortable, and I'm very happy with mine. So we rode around Silverton, and you got to see Silver Creek Falls area, not the falls themselves. We didn't go there, but you get to see that. So, yeah. I'll put a picture of the bike so you can see it in better light than in the garage here, but that's what it is. Black Road King with white walls. That's how the classics came when they were new, and that's what I've kept on this one. I replaced the back tire here a bit ago. Mine's got mods. The rear taillight, is LED, and it's I think tastefully done. I really like the way that the bike was modded. It's got the dog dish air cleaner. Maybe not the most efficient air cleaner, but I think it looks incredible. I think that's off of a shovel head or earlier era when that was the air cleaner on the Harleys. These are usually the kind of the size that they look like a football. The ones that should be on this. This was replaced, and I think I like the looks of this better. I think it's a good look. The Pro Pipe again, that's modded, so that's a 2-into-1, and that's not stock. I think it's an improvement over stock from the looks department and performance. I have extensions here. These are not stock. This is stock, but this piece isn't. This wouldn't be chrome. It's black. The original. I put this on because my rider is typical rider for this is short. She's 5 foot tall, and so she didn't fit this well. Her legs, these are actually custom bars to these slant down. The other ones come out straight. So this is accommodating her legs so that this wasn't hitting this anymore. Now she loves the ride. So if you have a shorter rider, these extensions, they're not Harley. These were Amazon. They're incredibly heavy and well made, and the chrome looks nice. They're really well made. I mean, they're heavy things, as is a lot of the stuff that goes on a Harley, ridiculously heavy. But anyway, they're well made. I had to put some Loctite, as you have to on everything, on these twin cams or these big twins, is that they vibrate. So things, Loctite is the Harley guys as a must, for them. But yeah, those are custom and they set up. But anyway, if you have a shorter rider, those really help. This has got a Corbin seat. I like it better than the stock seat. It's a better seat. I mean, it's all leather. It's a better made thing as it is. I also like the looks of it better. Once you have the tour pack off and stuff, it's a little slimmer looking seat, and it's really high end foam. Great seat. Got a lot of stuff used here. You know, it's an older bike. This has the little eyebrows or whatever. I don't know what those are called over the lights. Sometimes people put ridiculous stuff on Harleys, and I think that's just crazy. Why would you do all that? And but these are just slightly smoked. These are not the original look on those. Those are originally just yellow or orange, amber, whatever. The front of this bike just looks great to me the way it is. Just amazing. I need to get a new brake lever. The chrome's coming off of this one. That stuff will dig into you too when it peels off. So I need to get a new one of those, but these are fairly easy to come by. The Harley ones aren't so much, but there's a lot of off-brands that look exactly the same. So I'm going to get one of those. I also have some larger mirrors, the square style, and with longer stems, because famously these don't really get around your shoulders, and they're, you can look, you just scrunch your shoulders or twist a little bit to see out of them. You can. I just like, I don't really enjoy doing that, so I'm getting a little bit bigger mirrors, and I'm okay with it. I think this bike can handle it. They don't need to be super slim mirrors. But yeah, that's kind of it. There's other stuff I've missed that's custom, I guess, but it's mostly an 05 Road King, and it has been a pleasure to own and ride. And one other thing, I'll cover some of this in another episode, I guess. But in Oregon, we're famous for having a lot of rain. We don't so much have rain storms like a lot of other parts in the country where they'll get 10 inches of rain in a day. That never really happens here. But what we have is a large number of half-inch rain days, and gray and rain and drizzle, and it really sometimes feels like it goes on for 6 months of just that rain season. And it's hard if you like to be outside, if you don't just get your rain gear on and go deal with it. And it can keep you inside a lot for half the summer, or I mean half the year. But we'll say a touring motorcycle can allow you to get out and go and enjoy things if you have some warm weather gear and you pick your days. We still, even in this state where it rains all the time, it seems, we still have our days when it's clear out. Today is one of those where it's not raining. And I just got to go do one of my favorite summertime activities in November in Oregon. And I'm guessing that I'll probably kind of be able to do that. I don't think there'll be a month that I don't ride the motorcycle. It does get colder than it is here now. It's in the 50s, and it gets down to where it's all average in the 40s or 30s. And it gets down into the teens and single digits at certain times when we have real cold spells. And I won't ride in that. But you can ride. You can have, if you get cooped up in Oregon or in Washington, Seattle or Washington area, you get cooped up and you kind of like, man, I like to get out. These things are amazing. Like, I have a boat. I enjoy boating, and I say like sometimes 2.5 hours after work in the boat. Sometimes it's like a whole weekend of relaxation and kind of rejuvenation. And these things do something like that. It's not a necessity; it's a toy, but it does add pleasure to life and enjoyment. So glad we have it. Feel thankful to be able to own one of these and ride it around. And it's a big bike, but it doesn't feel big when you start riding down the road. It's just like anything else. It wants to stay upright. It's maneuvering it around in certain times can be a little more difficult, but it's not that big of a deal for me. And I think that for a lot of people, they're just no big deal. So anyway, that's it. I'll probably cut a lot of this down, but thanks for hanging out with me and going for a ride.